thumbprints from years of his mother's egusi dinners, smelled of old spice, teenage angst, and bald socks. He pictured his mother Agbala, her hunched back curved like a sickle, as she straightened his pillows and sniffed the air for dust. His palms dove past the blur of Bob Marley tees and khakis in his closet and reached for a washed black tee with a blown-up image of the Jonas Brothers. A month ago, he'd woken up in his Philadelphia row house to a call from his mother. He'd ignored the headache forming across his temple as she complained that he lived too far from Sugarland, and didn't he know the long distance was taking a toll on her health? He'd refused to concede to her demand that he leave his corporate job in Philadelphia for a boutique oil and gas law firm in Houston. With his mother, it was important to stand one's ground, trembling knees and all, or risk becoming his father Eke. The poor man sought his wife's stamp of approval for everything, down to the number of fried plantains he could have with his jollof. Nna ran his fingers through his afro and his mother's disapproving face flashed across his eyes. She eyed his hair, the whites of her eyes butter yellow from too much melanin, or too much glinting at the sun, or too many sleepless nights. He pictured her in that moment advising him that young Igbo men like himself must keep neat haircuts, not the ya hair of black boys in America, lest they, the ubiquitous powers that be, confuse him for a gangster or worse, an easy corpse. He would turn the conversation around, announce that his law firm had just adopted a hybrid model that allowed associates to work remotely at their choosing. "I'll be splitting my time between Philadelphia and Sugarland, Mom. You get to have me to yourself," he would say to her, and for a moment, she would forget about his ya hair. He heard the clinking china, the wooden ladle striking the sides of an aluminum pot, the pretty woman's small feet on the kitchen parquet. Was she a guest? An intruder? Dare he ask? He looked at himself in the cast-iron mirror that leaned against his closet. He nodded approvingly at the big arms, the slim waist, and the toned legs, the result of one too many leg days at the gym a block away from his row house in Philadelphia. He grabbed a white tooth comb from his dresser and ran it through his hair, then cologne, a breath mint. He wanted to impress, and not just a little. The woman's back was still turned to Nna when he returned to the kitchen, her towel slipping down her torso to reveal a lacy marigold bra as she bustled around the cooker. She stood in front of one of his mother's aluminum pots, the ladle in her right hand and a mitten in her left. There was a graying birthmark, the shape of a hat, on her upper left arm. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words at the tip of his tongue sounded dirty and unfinished. She raised a slender forearm to her lips and licked stew off her palm. Nna wished he was the stew, or that she could teach him to cook stew. She made it look simple. She was simplicity itself, all florals and mittens and diced onions, her tight curls neatly tucked behind her ears. She reached for a serving bowl and her curious eyes connected with the cusp of his lips. He saw her. He saw the mole to the left of her upper lip, the hardness of her jaw, the crook in her nose and the widening of her eyes. She gasped. "Ikemefuna," the woman said, matter of fact. Her voice was musical, each syllable stretched thin like an octave. "Excuse me? That's my name." She grinned. Nna stared at the smatter of brown freckles above her cheeks, then at her lips, red and pulsing. She smelled of onions and the first spurt of blood from a gash on skin. Standing before the woman in that kitchen.